Hi guys, Napoleon Lawson here from Model Mortgage HPLB, and I'm here with another video. And today's topic is going to be how to farm your personal sphere of influence. And this is a topic that I love because, quite frankly, I believe the sphere of influence approach in terms of growing a sales business, particularly a sales business like real estate, is really the only way to go. The numbers show that the vast majority of successful realtors, their business comes from their sphere of influence. But oddly enough, many of us have a very difficult time farming and approaching our spheres. And now with the advent of so many technological advances, we go to Facebook and then we buy leads online and we do a lot of other things that cost money and time. But I'm a believer that the sphere of influence approach, farming that, is really the best way to be successful. And it's been tested over time again and again and again, and it's not really going to change. So, having said that, and let you guys know what a proponent I am of this approach, let's do a deep dive into how to be successful doing that. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this particular topic, the first thing I want you guys to do, for those of you who haven't signed up for Model Spark yet, is send me a an email. My email is Napoleon, Napoleon .Lawson, Lawson, at modelmortgage.com. Send me an email so that I can send you an invitation to join the Model Spark database. If you're a realtor and you're licensed in Illinois, I'd love to have you on my team. But the Model Spark database is really a great tool for you and I to partner and help you promote your business. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about, since we're talking about sphere of influence, is downloading your database. Some people don't know how to do that, and I want to make sure that you have the actual contacts available to you and organized correctly that you're going to use to farm. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to download the Export Contacts app. And if you don't use the Export Contacts app, there are other apps that you can use to transport all of your contacts from your phone into an Excel file that you can then manipulate. So you're going to download the Export Contacts apps to your iPhone or your other device, and then it's going to enable you to download an Excel file. It's going to take all of your contacts, put them in an Excel file. Then once we have the contacts in your Excel file, then we're going to clean up the Excel file. You're going to delete names and contacts that you don't think you need. And then you're going to make sure all the information is accurate and correct. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to separate our database into A's, B's, C's, and D's. Now, this is important because um, how you arrange the individuals in your database is going to determine how you farm and market to them. So the A's in your database are people that you know, like you, and would not hesitate to support your business. So these are people who are going to be closest to you. Then your B's are going to be people who know you and who may or may not like you, but they're very familiar with you, and you feel comfortable having a conversation with them about your business. And then the C's are people who are in your database who you don't know them that well. They have some familiarity with you. So you're kind of iffy about what to say to them and how to approach them, but they have run across you at some point or another, and you guys probably are familiar with each other. You want to organize them in that category. And then finally, the D's. We all have D's in our database, and D's are individuals that we don't know who they are. We don't know how their name got into our phone. And if we saw them on the street, we probably wouldn't recognize them, yet they're in our contact list. So you want to organize each one of those groups in your Excel sheet accordingly, okay? And then once you do that, once you clean it up and organize them, then you're going to upload what's called a CSV file into your MartyrSpark database. So again, to join my MartyrSpark group, all you need to do is send me an email, and then I will send you back an invitation, and then you can sign up, and then we can work on generating business and being marketing partners together. But that's really going to be helpful to have everything put into the database when we start making our calls. Okay, so now that we've gotten past that, let's talk about what to do with our A, B, C's, and D's. You know, everybody has different people in their sphere that they know, but every sphere of influence is designed the same. It's always going to be A's, B's, C's, and D's. And one of the challenges that people have is they don't know how to really approach the group because they're concerned about what they're going to say. Well, what we're going to learn here today is I'm going to teach you a method where you're going to say the same thing over and over again to each one of these groups. And then we're going to slightly modify what we're going to say based on the audience. But at the end of the day, your value proposition, what you're presenting to each individual, is not going to change, okay? But the main thing to remember is always remember your audience. So the A's, people you're 100% confident, want you to succeed. Your B's are people who like you, but who are indifferent about your success. The C's are going to be people who are indifferent about you, but familiar with you. And then the D's are going to be people in your database that you don't know, okay? So now let's get into the meat and potatoes. Why we fear our sphere, okay? Like I said at the outset, the numbers show that farming our sphere of influence is by far the most successful way to constantly generate quality leads. But even though that's the case, many of us fear approaching our sphere. So the question is, what is it that we fear? Now, I can't speak for all of you, but the reason I'm so committed to this sales approach and prospecting approach is because I've struggled with these fears like you, because I'm in the sales business. And what I eventually learned is I had to really take a long look at myself and say, well, Napoleon, what is it that you're afraid of? And I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure some of these fears that I have, you had too. So let's go over them. The first thing I think that causes us to fear approaching our sphere of influence is fear of being appearing to be selfish or salesy. Okay, most people don't like to be sold, and when you pick up your phone and you look at names that you haven't contacted in I don't know how long, and then you try to approach them to purchase something for you or ask them to help you with your business, you appear selfish because you're not calling them for anything that they care about. The phone conversation is ultimately all about you. Okay, so that's one of the reasons I had trouble approaching my circle of influence. The other fear I had was if I wasn't going to appear selfish or salesy, then I had to try to be disingenuous or phony and pretend that I'm calling because I care about what's going on with you or what's happening with the children, when in truth, that's really not why I'm calling at all. So, on one hand, I don't want to appear selfish and salesy, but if I try to get around what I'm really trying to do, then I come off as disingenuous and phony. So, that was a challenge for me. I didn't want to do that. Of course, after I looked at one and two, the third concern was the fear of alienating all the people in my sphere that I knew. If they decide that I'm this selfish sales guy who's trying to get them to do stuff that they're really not interested in doing, and that's the only context upon which I'm calling them, and then to add insult to injury, I'm being phony about my reasons. I'm not being straightforward. Eventually, I knew that I would begin to alienate people, and they would see me calling and just put me into voicemail. So that was the third fear that I had to get over. And then finally, because of fear one, two, and three, I was stuck at if I pick up this phone, knowing how I feel about fear one, fear two, and fear three, what am I going to say? Okay. So this is really what most of us struggle with at a very fundamental level. It's these four fears. Okay. So what did I have to do to overcome these concerns? Well, this is what it was. I eventually realized that until I came up with something that I believed in so passionately in terms of being able to add value to the individuals in my sphere of influence that I was contacting, until I had something that I believed that would really be impactful in their life, I had no business calling. So what I had to really do is sit down and give some thought to what do I have to offer that when I call people, um, they would want to talk to me. And this is what I came up with. So one of the first things I had to do is I had to focus on giving value instead of getting leads. Um, I needed to find something I truly believed I had valuable to offer, and then I had to expect the loss of some of the people in my sphere and understand that I was going to gain others. One of the things you have to understand about working in your sphere of influence is that a healthy sphere of influence is always evolving. And one of our concerns is losing people. Well, if you farm your sphere the right way, you're going to lose some people, but you're going to gain the right people. Okay. And that's why how you approach your sphere, the mentality you approach it with, and the conversation you're going to have is so important. Then, fourth, what I had to do is I had to master presenting and explaining a consistent value proposition. Now, when I say consistent value proposition, what I mean by that is I had to make sure, even though what I was going to say to each group, the A's, the B's, the C's, and the D's, I had to make sure that what I was promoting fundamentally and essentially wasn't going to change because what I had to give, it was the value of it wasn't going to change. So I didn't have to. I wanted to have a conversation that would allow me not to have to deviate and come up with a new script or a new approach every time. Okay, so once you master those four things, then you'll have the courage to approach your spirit. And I'm going to say this before we move on. I guess the best example of this, when I was little, um, the Jehovah's Witnesses would always come to my door. And I love the Jehovah's Witnesses, but one of the things I would always find impressive about them is they had the courage to knock on my door, a complete stranger, and try to talk to me about their belief system. And I always said to myself, man, where did they get that courage to do that? Well, they got the courage because they believe wholeheartedly what they were talking to you about was valuable to you. So if you're going to be, I can't emphasize this point enough. If you're going to be successful at consistently farming your sphere, you have to truly believe that what you are bringing to them in terms of value is important. Once you master that idea and that concept, you won't worry about rejection. You won't worry about losing people. You won't worry about them hanging up on you because you will believe with every fiber of your being what you're bringing them they need. You got it? So I can't make that point enough. Now, the other thing we need to discuss before we get into the meats and bolts of everything is the difference between an affinity-based sphere and a value-based sphere of influence. Okay? Most people, before they get into the sales industry, they have what I call an affinity-based sphere of influence. And what that simply is people that you have randomly, for whatever reason, come in contact with who basically like you because they do. They either like you because they do, or they know you from someone else. But what holds your sphere of influence together is whether they like you or not. And when we as salespeople approach our spheres of influence, because we have had an affinity based sphere of influence our entire life, most of us have an affinity based mindset. Well, that's another thing you have to change. Your uh, mindset in terms of building your sphere of influence has to be that you want a value-based sphere of influence opposed to an affinity-based sphere of influence. And this is what I mean by that. In a value-based sphere of influence, it's irrelevant to you whether or not the individuals in your sphere like you or not, or how they feel about you personally. What drives you and what's going to make your sphere of influence grow is the individuals that you're looking for to fill your sphere with. Because remember, I said a healthy sphere is going to evolve. The individuals in your sphere of influence that you're looking for have values that correspond with your values, specifically in a business context. Okay? So, what I mean by that is you're going to identify yourself as a valued, experienced member of the real estate profession. And the individuals that you're going to fill your sphere with are going to be individuals that value you within that context. So instead of looking at you from a personal standpoint, they look at you as Joe, the great, knowledgeable, experienced real estate professional that's going to be able to help me accomplish my goals with their years of experience and their skill set. Okay, so that is how you want to build your sphere. And this is the benefit of having a value based sphere. Um, if you have an affinity sphere of influence, you can't grow that to an unlimited size because you would have to have personal relationships with everyone in the sphere, and you'd have to keep doing things to make them continue to like you. You'd have to continue to invest in those relationships that way. Um, in a value based sphere of influence, you don't have to carry the weight of the relationships. What stimulates and sustains the relationships is all the members have the same value system. So I'll give you an example. When you go to church, okay, the pastor of the church doesn't know all the people in his congregation. Joel Osteen doesn't know all the people at Lakewood Church personally. But what makes Joel successful is everyone in Joel's organization, everyone within his sphere of influence, shares his value proposition. What Joel values, they value. So now he's surrounded by all of these people, and everyone with a large sphere of influence that continues and continues to grow, it has to be value based. So again, that's why understanding and being able to clearly communicate your value proposition is so important. Okay, so let's go to the next point. Um, Once we're clear on that, you want to make sure that you're hunting for the right people. And what you're hunting for, and I said this at the outset, but I want to reinforce this again, you're not hunting for leads, deals, and transactions. What you're really hunting for are really good, sound relationships with your vision and value partners, not leads. Okay. And the way you accomplish that is when you speak to people in your sphere for the first time, and I'm going to go over some sample scripts that I use that work for me. When you speak to people for the first time in your sphere, um, your focus should not be finding deals, leads, and transactions. Your focus should be finding people who appreciate you and the vision you're bringing to them. Now, as a realtor, um, there's a couple of ways you can do that. If you're a new realtor, your approach should be, hey, um, I've been in this business for, X period of time. And we don't actually, I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to get, because that's I'm getting ahead of myself. That's getting into the scripted part of the conversation. So I'm going to get back to that later. Forgive me, guys. Sometimes I get off task. Okay, so the next point, contextualizing the relationship. This is important when you're farming your sphere. And guys, as we go through this conversation, the reason I'm going over all of these points is because this is setting you up to have the right mindset when you actually start making the calls. Okay, so everything that I'm explaining to you is leading up to where ultimately you want to be. So let's talk about contextualizing your relationships. When I talk about contextualizing your relationships, what I mean is this. Some people think when they're contacting or farming their sphere that their approach should be to try to connect to each individual that they're reaching out to on a personal level, okay? Where they're trying to find out what's going on with the kids, who's graduating. That's not efficient, and that ultimately won't work. The reality is you don't have the time to keep up with what's going in every individual's life. And the reality is I guess I have to say it frankly, you don't care to that degree because you don't have the capacity, especially as a busy person, to really stay connected to all of those individuals. So it doesn't make sense to me to put yourself in a position, and again, this is going back to the affinity based sphere of influence approach. It doesn't make sense to try to be unauthentic and try to pretend that you're concerned about those aspects of their life. Okay. What you want to do is you want to set up your relationships in a context where you can be authentic and genuinely talk to them about what you both are interested in. Again, and that's the benefit of setting up a value based sphere. Now, and I'll give you an example. At your real estate firm, many of you have a broker, and that broker that you work with, your sponsoring broker, he has a relationship with everyone in his organization. Now, if you don't if you don't send your broker a happy birthday card, he doesn't care. If you don't ask how his children are doing or say something about them graduating, he doesn't care. And likewise, if he doesn't say happy birthday to you or like your pages on Facebook, or he or she are not into what's going on in other aspects of your life, you don't care and you don't get offended. The reason you don't care about those things is because your relationship with that individual has a certain context. And what you guys care about is what your relationship as it relates to the real estate business. That's the context of your relationship. And because that's the context of your relationship, that's the only aspect of the relationship you really have to maintain. That's what I mean when I say you want to contextualize your relationship. The same way you have contextualized your relationship with your sponsoring broker and the people you work with um, in your professional life to get your to accomplish your goals, you want to contextualize your relationship with the people in your database. But the trick is you have to take charge of contextualizing the relationship. So at the very outset, you when you contact people, you have to approach it in a way where they understand, hey, we're going to continue to be communicating in the future, and I'm going to continue to talk to you. But the context under which I'm going to communicate and talk to you, for the most part, is going to be about this business. And that's why it's important that the individuals you recruit understand the basis of the relationship. And again, that's why it goes back to how you present your value proposition. Okay. So the next thing we want to talk about is preparing, practicing, perfecting, and presenting your value proposition. Now, this is where we get into a little script training. Now, some of you may have a different value proposition than I do, but I'm going to share with you what my value proposition is, and I want you to pay attention to my approach. And then after I go over how I'm going to present my value proposition to each person that I contact in my sphere, then I'm going to go back and explain to you how uh, the conversation I'm going to have sets the stage for me to have a robust lead generating relationship with each of those individuals. Okay, so here we go. Okay, now I'm going to do a mock call as though I were calling the A's, the B's, and the C's in my sphere of influence. Okay, so here's what I would say to uh, the A group. Anthony, well, I'm making the call. Ring, ring. Hey, Anthony, what's going on? Hey, when you get a chance, I want to take you to lunch to talk to you about working with me as a recruiter for my real estate a referral network or as potentially a referral agent. But I want to sit down and go over with you the details in person before you make a decision. So, when can we get together? Okay. Now, that's how I would talk to an A. I know Anthony. I'm confident he's going to want to, or at the very least, he's going to hear me out, and we're going to have an opportunity to sit down, and I'll be able to explain my value proposition to him. Okay, so that's what you would do with an A. Now, a B would be a little more challenging. This is how the conversation might go with a B, and this is how I'm going to initiate my value proposition. And also keep note, in each one of these scenarios, I'm not going to ask for a lead. I'm going to really focus on setting up a face-to-face meeting, and that's going to be important later on. So this is what I would say to the B's. Hey, Cheryl, this is Napoleon. How have you been? Good. Well, I know we haven't spoken in a while, but I'm calling because I just wanted to talk to you for a few moments about a couple of opportunities I'm offering through my real estate business, and I want to get together with you in person to explain them in detail because I'm certain you or definitely someone you know would be very interested. So, when can we get together? That's what I would say to a B. Okay, and then of course I have a response if she says, "Well, we can tell me more about it," but I'm not going to get into that now. I just want you to understand the initial approach. But again, I emphasize setting up a meeting, and then I'm going to give you an example of what I would say to a C. Okay, so give me a second here. If I was speaking to a C, this is what I would say. Hello, Stacy. Now remember, a C is someone that I know, but they're kind of indifferent about me. I mean, so we don't have a close relationship. This is how this conversation would go. Hello, Stacy. This is Napoleon from CRR. How have you been? Good. Well, the reason I'm calling is because I don't know if you're aware, but I'm a full-time realtor. I've been so for about 3 years, and I'm currently looking for individuals who might be interested in working from home, part-time or on a full-time basis, to join my real estate marketing team. And I would love to sit down and meet with you to talk to you about more about the program. Because, like I say, if even if you're not, you won't benefit from it. I know once you understand the program, someone that you know would definitely want to get involved. So, when would you be free for us to get together? Okay. Now, let's pause for a moment. Those are the three initial conversations I would have when I'm calling my sphere. I can use this same conversation over and over and over and over and over again for years, and it's never going to change. But let's look at what this approach does for me. The first thing the approach does is, instead of me calling them saying, do they know someone who wants to buy or sell a home? I'm calling them with an opportunity. Okay. And if they respond to the opportunity, I know they value what I'm talking about, and it's very likely they respect me as a realtor. Now, why is that important? Well, I don't want to call someone to beg for one lead here or there. I want to talk to someone who would be interested in systematically providing me with several leads over and over and over and over again. Okay? So, what I'm really looking for is someone who respects me enough to sit down and have a face-to-face meeting with me. Now, why is the face-to-face meeting so important? Well, when you're talking to someone over the phone, you really can't read body language. You really can't get a sense of how interested they are in what you're talking about. And you don't even know if you have their undivided attention. They may be doing a bunch of different things. And this is a very important sales pitch for you because you're not looking simply for leads. You're looking for a business partner who's going to consistently help you obtain leads. So you want to have a face-to-face meeting with someone so you really can gauge whether or not they understand what you're communicating to them, and so that you can gauge their level of influence, right? Now, let's say that they say they're not interested. Well, because you didn't approach them for a lead, even if they say they're not interested, after you have an opportunity to sit down with them, and by the way, side note, if they're not willing to sit down and meet with you, you probably can move on from that individual because that means they don't value you enough to at least get together with you and hear you out. And they're probably also then not going to be a reliable lead source. Okay. So, but what you don't want to do is by not offering value, you could alienate someone who is a good lead source. And remember, we want to get over that fear of being salesy and selfish. So in our meeting invitation, when we make our initial calls, our motivation for getting them out and sitting down and talking to us is not actually to help us find buyers and sellers. Our goal is to have them view us as a business partner, and then you're going to explain to them how they're going to benefit from the relationship. But getting them to sit down and have a meeting with you is essential, is because it lets you know how much this individual values me, and it also gives you some indication about what they value. Because if they'll sit down and have a meeting with you, they've already let you know, hey, something about what you said has some value to me. I'm interested in it, and then you can really focus on um, sharing with that individual how what you're trying to do is going to benefit them. So the meeting is essential. The other thing about this initial conversation that's important is, even if they say they may not be interested right now, it sets the stage for you to contact them again. Because then what you can say is this. Let's say Stacy, uh, who's a C, says, "Well, Napoleon, I'm not interested right now, and I have a lot going on." Then your response can be, "Well, I totally understand. Well, do me a favor. Let me get your email, and I at least want to send you some literature on the program so that you'll know how it might benefit you in the event you decide you want to change your mind later. Is that okay?" And then she says, "Sure." Okay, now she's more apt to say sure because she doesn't see you as someone sending her a bunch of stuff to sell her something. What you're trying to do is send her something that would be an opportunity for her or someone else she knows to generate revenue. So she is probably going to be more apt to allow you to contact her via email. Well, what do you have now? Now you have her contact information, because remember, this is a C. This is someone you may not know that well. You may not have their information at all. Now you've opened the door to that. Because you have her information now, then you, going forward, you can put her on your mailing list, and you can be top of mind in terms of promoting your real estate business. But when you initially contacted her, you weren't pursuing leads or anything of that nature. So meeting with the individuals in person gives you a clear cut way to determine whether or not they value what you're promoting. And even if they say they're not interested, it gives you an opportunity to get more data from them, more of their information, so that you can send them information about your value proposition. But also, you can email them and send them marketing materials. And again, because your approach initially wasn't salesy, they're going to be more open to receive those. Okay, so those are the things about those approaches that are key to understand, and that's why I use them. Now, let's hypothetically say that one of the individuals you speak to is on board with what you want to do and the value proposition you've given them. They're interested in learning more about how they could make money with you on your marketing team or as a referral agent. Then what you're going to do now is you're going to focus on cultivating, encouraging, and coaching that individual in a way where they're going to be successful in marketing your business. Okay, so what does that entail? The first thing you're going to do is, and before I go any further, I guess I should explain to you guys what my value proposition is. Then it'll make sense. My value proposition when I talk to people is, I'm not looking for people to give me leads. I'm looking for people who want to be in the real estate business, but who do not want to do all the things that a full-time realtor would do. So there are two people I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who would be willing to recruit individuals for me who might want to be involved in the real estate business but don't want to be full time. And I would then give that person like a finder's fee for introducing me to someone that really would like to work with me. That's very valuable to me, because now I have a relationship with the recruiter, and I can promote my business to them directly. And I can now, because of the relationship I've established, I can ask them for leads directly. And then also, they have the option to ultimately become one of my referral agents as well. But then with my referral agents, they're going to be my bread and butter. Now, what's the profile of a referral agent? Let's go over that. The profile of the perfect referral agent is someone who probably has a full-time job, who knows a lot of people, who's really high on the real estate business, but who doesn't want to service clients for whatever reason. But what they want is the money and the commission that you make from doing deals. That is the perfect profile of the referral agent. So, what am I going to do to this individual or for this individual to add value to them? Well, one, I'm going to share my experiences in terms of what they need to do to be a successful prospector, because that's all a referral agent really is. There's someone who gets a license and they focus solely on prospecting and getting clients, getting quality leads. So first I'm going to provide them with the information they need for school. Okay. Then I'm going to help them, even while they're in school, start managing and developing their database in preparation for the prospecting they're going to do once they get their license. Um, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to invite them to join my or sign up for my social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, my Facebook business page. I'm going to get them to join. And now that they're really on board with what I'm trying to do with them, they're going to invite other people. Okay. Now, with this individual, you're not going to have a bunch of these. So with these individuals, I am going to make it a conscious effort to connect with them and keep track of what's going on in their life through social media. I'm going to like their pages. I'm going to stay connected. I'm going to send them. I'm going to comment on their birthday posts. I'm going to say something or acknowledge their children's graduation and the milestones in their life. That's going to be important, okay, because that's going to keep me connected. Um, you never miss a birthday, anniversary, graduation, anything like that with these people. And then also with these individuals, and this is all before they get their license, I would attend events if the opportunity presented itself, and that would give me a chance to continue to network with them. So um, this is my approach. I target individuals who want to um, be in the business, but who quite don't know how. Now, I don't know if you recognize it or not. These are the most precious uh, sources of leads that you can possibly ever have. And this is why. A person who is thinking about entering the real estate business and they're in the process of working on it, real estate is already at the top of their mind. So the only thing that I need to do, because they're not in a position to do it yet themselves, is be the source that they come to for knowledge and expertise. So then when they're focused on or communicating with people in their personal sphere, the first person they're going to think about when it comes to giving someone a lead is me, because I'm already working with them in that capacity. So now I don't have to beg them for leads, and I don't have to twist their arm to get them to cooperate with me. And I also don't have to feel awkward if I'm having conversations with them about um, marketing or prospecting, because this is something they want to do anyway. So I'm adding value to them, they're adding value to me, and this isn't costing me a dime. Now, what I am going to do is when they pass their exam, I'm going to pay for their course, and I'm going to do whatever I can to show my appreciation for them trusting me with the early stages of their career. But all while this is going on, all while they're taking the steps to be successful, I am there holding their hand, and at the same time, they are giving me leads. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of this that just happened to me recently. I just did a mortgage deal very recently. And the client I was working with, she works in the insurance industry. And I did the deal for her. And while I was doing the deal, I was talking to her about getting her own business. And she saw how excited I was about the real estate business. And I had thrown that out there, the fact that she should think about potentially getting in the business and getting her license. Well, shortly after we closed on her home, I get a text message from her where she says, "Hey, my aunt and uncle would like to purchase a property and they want you to, I was wondering if you could help them with the financing." So I said, of course I would. So I started working with her aunt and her uncle. And then shortly after that, she then said, and by the way, I want to get my real estate license. Now, let's look at this. I know that she values me because she's referred me to her aunt and uncle. But now she too, because of the experience she has had with me, and I encouraged her, she wants to go ahead and take that leap and get her license. This now means I have another referral source for my mortgage business, because who do you think she's going to give all of her clients to? She's going to give it to the person who's been holding her hand all the way through this journey that she's about to take. It doesn't matter if it takes her years to accomplish it. All during that process, we are going to have a relationship, and the context of that relationship is going to be the real estate business. Now, because of the context of our relationship, when people ask her, "Hey, what's going on with you and Napoleon? Are you still working on getting your real estate license?" What does that do? That also gives me the opportunity to connect with other people in her sphere, who, in her personal sphere of influence, who may also have the same desires and goals. So you see how that works? And this is only one individual. What if you have 10 individuals with the exact same mindset who want to achieve the exact same thing? This is why you recruit. Now, I never had to say to her after I got her the mortgage, uh, send me leads and let me know if you know anyone else who wants to purchase a home. I didn't have to say that to her. I serviced her really well, but more importantly, through encouraging her to become a realtor and a business owner herself, I established a permanent relationship with her that's going to keep us connected for who knows how. As long as she's in the business and she's working with me and she needs advice, we're going to have a relationship. We're going to be connected, and it's always going to be in the proper context. So that's my value proposition. Okay. Now, you never want to stop creating these type of relationships, and you never want to stop recruiting. So once you figure out how to approach your A's, B's, and C's, you're going to repeat that conversation over and over and over again, and you're going to master bringing people into your sphere of influence solely based on uh, these concepts. Okay, so again, never stop recruiting, never stop repeating your value proposition. Okay, now um, there's one other thing I want you guys to think about before you go down this path. You have to make sure your personality is what I call sphere friendly. And what I mean about spheres, I hate that word, sphere. What I mean by sphere friendly is you want to make sure you're the type of person that really cares about helping people and adding value to them. If you're not sphere friendly, you're going to have trouble farming your sphere, because the reality is you're really just a transactional person and you really don't care about adding value to the individuals that you communicate with. What you want is something for them without adding really any value to them at all. You want something for nothing. So if that's your personality, this approach probably won't work for you, and you probably should, um, find another way to attract leads. But in my experience, if you are sphere friendly, this is absolutely the best approach. Okay. Now, once you do this and you get responses from each different group, you're going to organize them in your Model Spark database that you're going to sign up for, because you're going to send me an email. You're going to organize them in your database, and then you're going to market them appropriately. So the A's, the people who sign up and decide they want to work with you on your referral team, you're going to market and stay in communication with them more heavily. Uh, the B's, people who gave you their contact information but didn't decide to work with you, you're going to always try to make sure they keep you at top of mind. But what your goal really is to fill your sphere up with referral partners. Now, I want to drive home before we go. I want to leave you with this final thought. While this concept and this approach may seem foreign to some of you, all of you are participating in this process now. If you are a realtor, you are either part of a real estate firm where you have, most of you, I would say, some of you can be independent agents and brokers and have your own firm, but most of us are in one of two situations. We either are part of a larger organization where we have a sponsoring broker and they have a bunch of agents under them. All of them are part of that sponsoring broker's sphere of influence, and all of them are going out doing transactions for them. It's the same concept. Okay, they just have, you would have a team of referral agents. They have a team of licensed full-time agents, but the concept is the same. Or you are a owner or a sponsoring broker who has a team of people working under you. Again, you're using the value-based sphere of influence approach, where you've attracted a bunch of people who share your vision of how the real estate business should be practiced. You have a huge team of people working for you, and each one of those individuals are essentially your referral agents. They're doing transactions, and you're getting a piece of each one of their transactions simply because you support their business. It's the same concept. So even if you don't agree with my scripts or my approach, it is clear that this method is tried and true. The real estate business specifically has been built on this model. So to try to deviate from it and do anything else, to me, really just doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I hope this has been helpful. Thank you guys for listening. And if you guys have any questions, again, you can get in contact with me. My email again is Napoleon, Napoleon, Napoleon .Lawson, LAWSON @modelmortgage.com. Love having you guys, and I look forward to talking to you again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.